class. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of instruction about the annotated bibliography and why we're even using it. Some of you may have used it for other classes. I wanted to let you know that this is a really important step in your research, at least as you're building up into your literature review, which is the first part of your research paper, right? We're talking just about the secondary sources that you're using before you jump into your own primary research, doing your own interviews, surveys, and observations, creating your own new body of knowledge, right? So, a couple of things about this annotated bibliography. You should be able to transfer some of that information straight from your research log. So I'm going to look at this example research log that I posted, right? So I did this search on JSTOR for writing process in freshman, and I came up with some ideas, right? So I have here a couple of articles that I think might be useful. So I have several different articles just from this preliminary search I did with JSTOR. You guys are probably going to have more sources than this. I'm guessing from your research logs. But if you look at the assignment, I don't know if I have my assignment open here. Nope, that's not it. No, here it is. When you look at the assignment, it says here that you need at least 3 scholarly sources found on the UTRGV library database, plus your own primary research. Okay, so 3 is the minimum. You can have more than 3, but when you're choosing 3, probably those 3 are not going to be just, you know, the first 3 articles that you happen to find on your research log. 1, 2, 3, right? So probably that's those first 3. Nobody is ever that lucky in research, right? Probably you've got a whole bunch of different articles here, and you need to decide which ones you're gonna, not even which ones you're gonna use, but which ones you're even gonna read to figure out if you're gonna use them, right? So it's not like you cast, when we do the research log, we're casting our net out as far as we can to find as many sources as we can that could possibly answer your research question. When I do this, I start to be really like generous, like, well, it doesn't hurt to pull that one, it doesn't hurt to pull that one, and I end up with like maybe 10 different articles, and then I think, okay, I've got these 10 articles, which ones are the ones that I actually need to use? And so I go through and I start reading them, and sometimes it will be apparent after the first couple of pages, this is not what I need, this is not what I'm looking for, I can discard this one. Sometimes I end up reading the whole article and I think, this is perfect. Other times I end up reading the whole article and I think, they never got to what I thought they were going to get to, right? So you never know. When you cast your net out doing your research, as you did with, with your research log, you're going to get a whole bunch of different sources. But you have to have a way to sift through those and choose which ones that you're going to actually use. Do real researchers in real life write annotated bibliographies? They do use research logs, but do they write annotated bibliographies? Maybe not in the formalized way that I am asking you to do for this assignment, right? Like in a table and stuff. Probably it's more likely that they have these kinds of notes that you're going to be filling out in your table written right on the article as they're reading them, right? They're reading actively with that purpose in mind, like how could I use this? I am asking you to fill out the annotated bibliography because for some students, maybe for you, that act of reading through a lot of different sources and trying to evaluate which source you're going to use might be a new process, and it for sure is a process that takes practice. So the annotated bibliography is a way for us to get our ideas down about these sources, one source at a time, so that afterwards we can look back through all of the notes that we're putting here on our annotations, right, and be able to say, I think I'm going to really use this article. I don't think I'm going to use this article. Okay, so the annotated bibliography is nothing more than a tool to help you evaluate which sources you're going to use. And again, I want to give you some guidance and make sure that you're getting some good solid practice in. When you're doing research for other classes in the future, you might not be asked to turn in an annotated bibliography, but you should still consciously and in an organized way, maybe not necessarily writing it down if you absolutely hate this assignment, right? But I want you to have this practice already of, in an organized way, going through and evaluating your sources. Which of these helps me answer my research question, and which of them are important for my audience, right? So when you're doing your annotated bibliography, let's go back over here. We're getting a big picture of what all of our sources are saying. And it's also helpful because you might find that you have like 3 different articles that are answering the first part of your research question, but only 1 article that's sort of addressing the second part of your research question. And to be able to see that on your annotated bibliography and see where there's balance and what's missing, it's going to help you see, well, maybe I only need 2 of these, but I think I need to maybe do some more research and find another research question, or another article to help me answer this part of my research question, so it's a little bit more balanced, right? So it helps you get a big picture and see, where you maybe need to continue to find more sources and where you've got definitely enough and you don't need to find any more sources. Okay, it helps you to evaluate them. Are they credible? Is this going to be useful? If you've got 3 or 4 sources, how are you going to choose the ones that's the best one? Well, you're going to look at the one that's the most recent, the one that's the most closely tied to your research, maybe the one that is, maybe it's not recent, but maybe it was a seminal paper, like it was a really important article that lots and lots of people have been citing. Well, maybe you should use that one because it's like the authoritative voice. It helps you focus your research and organize your ideas, but for sure you're trying to think about which of these sources is best for my audience. Where are they going to see that I'm imbalanced in my sources? I'm trying to keep my audience in mind as I'm choosing my sources, and to make sure that you actually have the information you need to answer your question. So for an annotated bibliography, you're going to do a complete citation as it will appear. If this says works cited is MLA style. You're not necessarily going to use MLA style, but I'll talk about that in just a second. So right now, I need you to know you need to do the citation, the full citation that you would do for your end of text citations. So, the title, the author, the publisher, the publishing date, page number, all of that information, the complete citation, right? You're also going to do a really brief summary of the source. This is important because if you cannot articulate what the source is about, then you probably didn't read it very well. So this is kind of a test to make sure that you understood it, and also so that after you've read 5 of them, you'll be like, well, what was the one that was about this? I don't remember. Where did I find that? Well, if you're writing a brief summary after each of them, you'll be able to say, that's the one. You go look through your annotated bibliography. Okay, that's the one that I was thinking of. That's the one that I need to use. Then you evaluate the reliability of the source. Is this a credible source? Now, most of the things that you're going to find on the library databases are going to be credible because they're going to mostly come from academic journals. Some of them are going to come from trade journals, which are not necessarily peer-reviewed. They're going to look a little bit more magazine-like. Those might not be as reliable as a completely academic journal, but you can evaluate that and say, well, look who wrote it, look where they're from, they're still using citations, they're still, this still looks valid, and maybe the format might be more persuasive to your particular audience. Okay, so you need to consider all of those things as you're doing your evaluation. So you're evaluating, you're doing the citation, the summary, is a source reliable, and then finally evaluating, could I use this source in my paper? Do I need it? Would it be useful from what I'm trying to figure out and understand and say? Okay, so I've got this example here. I found this page on Wikipedia on food poisoning. So I would put here my citation where I got it. I would give this the summary here in purple. I would give an evaluation of the source. This source is not the most reliable. There's no author. It's not sponsored by a reliable organization. Okay, you guys, I put this up here as an obvious example. You should not be getting any research from Wikipedia or any other Google searches. Okay, your sources need to come from the UTRGV library databases. So this this particular annotation probably should not even happen for you. I just wanted to give a really obvious example of a source that would not be very reliable. Okay, and then down here is my evaluation of whether or not I think that this could be a useful source. And it says I don't think it's an appropriate source for my research paper. However, I could use it to redirect my focus. So I don't want to make it sound like you should never go to the internet. You could go to the internet and do a general search first, just to build up your own general knowledge, and then maybe you find more specific search terms here that you can plug into your the library databases to help you find more specific sources. Okay, so the internet, of course, is useful to help you figure out what's going on and make your research more specific, but you're not going to use pages like this as your actual sources. If that distinction feels confusing to you, then I definitely want you to talk to me about it, okay? So then I found this website here, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and there's an article here. So then here's my annotated bibliography entry, my citation, right? Here is the quick summary, and here is the evaluation of how useful it is. It's very reliable because it's sponsored by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, but it's already 5 years old. Probably there's other things that I could be looking at that are more recent. And then I talk about how I could possibly use it as long as I found other more recent examples to go along with it. Okay. Now I have to say this is a pretty long annotated bibliography entry. I don't want you to feel like yours need to be that long. They need to be as long as they need to be useful for you. I know that doesn't sound very specific, but you know, if they're so short in general that you're not gonna be able to look back at that and remember what it was about or whether you should use it or not, then that's not enough. But you also don't need to write huge long summaries, because this is just a tool. This is not a product in and of itself that we're concerned about that you didn't write enough. This is a tool to help you choose which sources you're going to use in your research paper. So we need to treat it that way. Okay, so so you can see here I have the same categories that we were looking at here in this example right here, right? The same categories. So the citation, the summary, is it a credible source? Would it be useful for my argument? And then the last one is, would it be persuasive for my audience? Okay, so these two are pretty related, in my opinion. But I want to make sure that you are thinking rhetorically, that you're not just thinking about your own point that you want to find out about, but that you're also thinking about your particular audience and whether or not they are going to be persuaded or find that information effective. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit here. So you need to, at the beginning of your annotated bibliography, you need to state your research question clearly, and then you need to state your intended audience and their values and what your purpose is. Okay, so I want you to do this work first, and before you start filling in your annotated bibliography, so that when you're answering these questions, would it be persuasive for my audience, you already have something to draw on because you've already been thinking about it, right? So that is the assignment in itself. So I want to take just a minute to talk about the citation that you're going to use. So make sure that you fill this part out too. What is your major? Find out what the citation style is used in your major, and you've gotten other instructions on how to do that. I want you to go ahead and copy paste in the style guide that you found online. If you use Purdue OWL, that's fine. If you use Purdue OWL and then there's a link to another style guide, put the actual link for the other style guide, so that when you are at the end of your research project and you need to really make sure that you're using those citations correctly, especially for the in-text citations, you can just come back here and you've got it saved right there and you know where to look. It also helps me because I'm familiar with MLA and APA, but beyond that, my familiarity becomes weaker, especially more specific as it gets, right? So I need to have this source too, so that when you are doing a research paper, I can say, is that the right citation? And then I look here and I can say, oh yeah, it looked weird to me because I'm an English major, but that's exactly what it's supposed to be for computer science majors, right? So it's kind of a CYA for you. And then I want you just to copy paste in an example from that website so that I can see, look really quickly and see, oh yeah, she's following the right format, okay? And then as you are creating those citations, I don't know exactly what other instructors feel, but for me, I don't think that it's that important that you know 100% backwards and forwards all of the rules for your particular citation style. I suggest using sites like these. There's other sites too where you go there and let's see, control click, let's see if it opens up for us. Did it work? There it goes. You choose your citation style, and then they ask you a series of questions, and you kind of plug it in, plug in all the information that they're asking for, and then it spits out the citation site that you're looking for. So you have the big ones here, APA, MLA, Chicago, but you could look, see they've got a whole bunch of different styles here. Okay, so you can choose the one that you need, plug in the information, and then it would be then it'll kind of churn out these end of text citations for you. I'm okay with that. To me, it's more important that you, when you see a citation, you understand what all the pieces are, and that you can pretty much write a citation in that format. You need to be consistent, but a page like this one might be helpful for you in getting that done. Okay, if you have questions about this annotated bibliography assignment, oops, that's not the right assignment, is it? If you have questions about the annotated bibliography assignment, I really need you to ask me. Okay, this is not a busy work kind of assignment. This is trying to get into the habit of being critical thinkers and evaluating my sources, because it's a really important stage of your research process kind of assignment. So the annotated bibliography, you can see the due date as soon as is due the following week. We're going to jump right in and start writing your literature review. So that's when you're actually going to be reporting what your sources are saying, and then trying to synthesize that into a conversation about where they agree and where they disagree and where the gaps are. So if you don't do your annotated bibliography, you're going to have a much more difficult time when you sit down to write your literature review next week, because you haven't read the stuff yet, and you haven't figured out which ones you're going to use yet. So you might as well work through this step the best that you can, so that your next step is easier. Oh my goodness, I just had a thought reading it. When you are reading your sources, you need to be reading actively. So you remember I had you practice those active reading strategies. These scholarly sources that you are working through, some of them are difficult, so I need you to please be reading actively. Be making your notes on the side if you print it out, or on the PDF. Not just the important points, but what you think about the important points, or this sounds like what that other person said in the other article. Be actively reading, working through the text, not just decoding from the first line to the last line. Please be actively reading. Okay, any questions that you have, you just get in contact with me. Okay? Thanks for your patience and attention, you guys.